I had a lot of fears. So it's like, just because you're confident about something and you're willing to take risks to accomplish something, that doesn't mean that doesn't mean that you're not fearful or afraid. You know, I was full of fear. I mainly for my children, you know, and how their process would be, you know, how they would adapt. So it's like, and I'm talking about the older children, because at the time my two older children were 13, my son was 13 and my daughter was 18. So the younger children, I actually wasn't worried about them at all. I had full confidence that they would be okay. So with my older children, although I had the confidence that I needed to get them into another environment, I was very fearful for their transition and how they would adapt. Yeah, so I would say that was that was one of the scariest things. The second thing was that my husband wasn't going to be there full time. He was keeping his business in the US and he would be traveling back and forth. So that of course comes with a lot of worries and concerns. We had never been separated at all before, you know. So it was like, that was very heavy. It was very heavy on my heart. A lot of fear surrounding it. The move was very stressful. It was worth it, but it wasn't an easy thing. The difficult things, the things that are really worthy, they're not easy to achieve. It's not easy to do the work that you need to do on yourself. It's not easy, you know, having a healthy relationship, keeping your marriage in a healthy space while you're going through making these difficult decisions, because chances are you and your spouse do not exactly see things the same way, you know. So none of that is easy. It's worth it. Yeah, it's worth it, but it's not easy. Before you decide whether you want to live in the countryside or in the city, or what job opportunities you have, before you even get that far, you have to come to terms with, and you have to decide, like, can I do this? Do I believe in myself that I'm capable of actually moving? What I did was I distanced myself, really. I distanced myself from people, and I spent a lot of time alone in deep thought, weighing my options. I deactivated from social media, Facebook, Snapchat, all of my social media. I deactivated. I would take the first part of the day, because I'm a mother, you know. Now I have 9 children, but whenever we moved to Gambia, alhamdulillah, I had 8 children at that time. Even yet still, I managed to find parts of the day where I have to take for myself, and making a very difficult decision, you know, such as moving to a new country. It definitely takes you spending time with yourself and going through the uncomfortable process of being alone. A lot of times we reach out and seek like validation from other people. We need the opinions and feedback of other people to kind of give us confidence about decisions. But I didn't tell my friends and extended family really that we were going to be moving to the Gambia until after my mind was made up. And some of the people that I told, they didn't know until we actually had plane tickets, and it was like a handful of people that knew. Everyone else found out after we made the move. And I never regretted doing it that way. You know, it's like when you're going through the decision making process, you don't want to have negative energy. You don't want to have just too much energy, negative energy from people in general. More than likely, the people that you express your vision to, they're not going to understand, because no one is living your life. No one's life is like yours. Even when you share with people what it is that you're going through, they don't have every detail. No one knows everything about you except yourself, and God knows everything that you're going through, everything that you have experienced, what you feel. And just like, yeah, so it's like when I was making that decision, I became fully aware of myself what I needed, what I wanted for my future, what I wanted for my children's future. And I believed that I could discover all of that easier if I had like less input from other people. So just like getting advice from random people, well, trying to explain your situation to them and saying, if you were me, what would you do? Do you think it would be worth it? What should I do? No one knows what you should do except you. You have to have that confidence in yourself about what you need and what you want for your life, because if you don't have the confidence in yourself about your own life, how can somebody else know? How can somebody else have that confidence for you? And you don't want to make that type of decision based on like reassurance from someone else. You have to be confident in your own self. And the way to do that is to not seek like that validation from people from the outside, people that are outside of your home. I'm not saying like your friends and extended family members are not important, but they should not play a heavy role in your decision making process. You have to make that decision for yourself and with the people that are living in your home. So I would definitely say that's one of the key things to making the decision, is like not involving too many people in your decision making process, and also not telling too many people about your vision, because it can make you feel uncertain or unsure about things that you felt certain and sure about, so it's not always in your best interest to just like get feedback from too many other people. I'll say one of the most important questions that I asked myself during making the decision was like, okay, what's the worst case scenario? If we choose to do this and it doesn't work out, what's the worst thing that could happen? And then I asked myself, if that happens, if the worst case scenario actually comes to life and happens, would it have been worth it? Would it have been worth trying to move from the US and move to Gambia if the worst case scenario happened? And when my answer to that became yes, then I knew I was very confident in my decision, and I knew that it was worth the risk. I weighed all of the risks. All of the risks were weighed. I wrote everything down. It's very important for you to write down, because you become clear when you see like your goals written down on paper. You become very clear as to what it is that you want. You write down your goals. They say if you write down your goals, automatically you have a 50% higher chance of achieving those goals that are written down. Have it in writing. What it is that you want to achieve, your short-term goals, what it is that you want to achieve right now, what it is that you want for the future, and you keep track of that. And you write down, you also want to write down what it is, the steps that you're taking to achieve those goals. Because if you're not taking any action, it's difficult, nearly impossible for you to achieve a goal without actionable steps. So you not only write down what the goal is, but what can you do right now to begin working on achieving that goal. So sometimes it's like the goal in itself, it looks too big, and even for myself, whenever I had decided that it was looking like we needed to leave America, and try to live in another country, I didn't know anything about Africa, but I knew that this was not working. I knew it wasn't working, like staying in America, that my family needed to move outside of America. I didn't even know where to begin looking in other countries or other African countries. So the goal was to leave the US. That's what you start praying for. That's what you start believing in. And at the time when I was praying for it and I began believing in it, we didn't even have the finances to move. I didn't see how it would work out. I didn't see how, the doors would be open, or what avenues would lead to us having the ability to actually accomplish the goal. But I would say the beginning step is believing that you can accomplish that goal, and we're not in control of opportunities that we're presented with. So when the time came that we were presented with the opportunity to move to Gambia, things started falling in place, because what's meant for you is going to fall into place. But the work that you have to do, the inside work, is on yourself and believing in yourself that you can accomplish the goal. So you write the goal down and become very clear with what you want for your life. It's a process, and it's very, very difficult for you to make that type of decision if you're relying on if you're relying too heavily on support and feedback from other people. It's something that you have to pull on from strength within yourself. And I would ask myself questions like, what is it that you're unhappy with right now? I would ask myself, what am I unhappy with right now in my life? What are the reasons for that? What is it that I want? What is it that I want from my life? How can it be achieved? And it always came back to me feeling like my best efforts were not going to be good enough, being in the US and trying to raise my children in the US. And it's like I feel like life had become so unbearable living in America. I was just willing to take the risk. Really, I was willing to take that risk. I was also up for the fight and whatever it required for me to be able to stay living in the Gambia. After moving to the Gambia, I was willing to. I was just up for it. So looking back now, I'm glad that we went ahead and did it the way that we did, because I have learned that there is really no right way to make that type of move. There's no right way to make that type of move. Some things in life you have to roll with the punches, and you have to just take opportunities as they unfold. I will definitely say that even the vision that I had within myself for us making this move, and the timeline that I had for things, it didn't unfold the way that I had planned. Things don't always work out the way that you have planned, but some of the very valuable life lessons that I have learned within this process is that you have to be flexible, you have to stay open-minded, and you have to take opportunities as they present themselves. It may not be what you originally had planned, but if you some kind of way can make it work for you, it's just very important for you to stay open-minded, like I said, and not to allow yourself to fall in the dumps of why is this not working out the way I had planned? I wanted it to work out differently, because it just may not work out the way that you had planned. It doesn't mean that your plan is failing. It just means that there's a different route for you to reach that end goal that you have. Looking back now, it's been 2 years since we've been living in Gambia, and it was just worth everything, all of the sacrifices. It was worth all of the risks. It was worth all of everything that we had to go through. It was just worth it. So I just wanted to share that, because that was one of the most difficult things with moving, was the process, the decision making process. How do I decide whether it's worth the risk? How do I make that actual decision? Yeah, so I just like to share different things about my family's journey, hoping that it will provide help provide comfort, to moms that are looking to make that move, and you're fearful, not for yourself, but for how your children will adapt, so I wanted to show our journey. I wanted to show that there is another life, that there's possibilities for you. There's opportunity for you to build another life. If you want to build another life outside of America, our children love the Gambia lifestyle. I wanted to share this journey saying that your children will be okay. The children will adapt, because I know for myself I had that fear, but my children have been so happy, and that's the hugest prize. We moved to Gambia with two teenagers, and watching my son just get to be himself, go through different phases and different stages, and for him to be okay, for him to be safe, just being who he is, and me not having that fear every time he leaves the house, is just priceless.